a small group of unhappy people unhappy, dissatisfied with the curriculum in the humanities in the 60s, when of course everything was in ferment, and most academics were sort of lagging behind students. But about half a dozen of us felt that there are lots of things that are not being covered in the humanities that ought to be. So I got together with a man at the University of Chicago by the name of John Coelty. I had worked for years with a man at Michigan State University named Russell Nye. I'd worked with a man in Pennsylvania, Marshall Fishwick, and I got to know soon several other persons such as M. Thomas Inge, who is now down in the Randolph-Macon in Virginia, another person named Roger Rollin down in Clemson, and interestingly, a brand new PhD student from Harvard in American Civilization named Peter Rollins, who came to us as a graduate student, has stayed with us ever since and is now Regis Professor of English at Oklahoma State. So a cadre of a dozen or so really aggressive, theorizing academics, although not really awfully big or caught up in theory. We had ideals, and I guess we had dreams, really, and we have been working on those dreams ever since. I think all those people still try to dream and think that we may have been partially successful so far, but we've only scratched the surface.
In terms of what were you thinking of studying? I mean, all of you had different specialties.
Yes, but we all had something in common, and that was a realization that there is a lot of stuff in the world, in culture, that the average academic despises or knows nothing about, or despises because he knows nothing about it. And we were awfully fed up with academics who tend never to get beyond their training. Those academics who say, I was trained at Chicago in such and such, or I was trained at Harvard in such and such. Our feeling was that if you're any good, having been trained at Harvard in such and such, as soon as you can, you throw that away and become your own person. So we had in common a dissatisfaction and the realization that culture, and especially American culture as we saw it, is depriving students. We're not being fair to the students because we are excluding them from so much of the richness of life.
The other thing is that, for example, John Coelty is doing your work on formula fiction.
Yeah.
You did Browne chat from there. You sort of started out on things that academics perhaps did do but were ashamed to admit that they were doing. And
how true. I can give you two examples. There was a professor of English at Michigan State who had been working for years in this field, and his papers had been lying in his desk drawer. When I established the Journal of Popular Culture, he went down the hall and said to Russell Nye, "Bravo, finally a place I can publish." And this is characteristic. Same thing at the University of Chicago, elsewhere. A lot of them didn't. Nobody, for example, except a student from Harvard, said bravo. But a lot of the non-elite schools, and they're the ones where we flourished most earliest, because you see, these people were those who were never quite admitted into the legitimate elite academy. Harvard still despised Bowling Green, and so in many ways it's a kind of revenge. You know, it's the dog going by the fire plug, and finally saying, "Here's something I can give you."